Shane and Jeffree, somebody mentioned them. I do think that a conversation about Shane and Jeffree could take up a long time. I don't think I'm going to say a whole lot. I'm not the biggest fan of Jeffree Star. However, I do believe that he is good for Shane. I really enjoy watching their friendship. I do think Jeffree is very funny. I think that there's a very real side to him, and then there's another side that I'm really not a fan of. But Jeffree with Shane, I love. Shane with Jeffree, I love.
This is about to get a lot more interesting. What did you do today? The bidding community is about to get a lot more interesting.
And although nobody's perfect, I think Shane is just a beloved person on the platform, and with good reason. So more on that later, or not, we'll see. Hey there, or hello. Still not sure exactly how I should be greeting you, so just pick whichever one you prefer. Maybe let me know which one works for you. I am back, and if you're picking me apart physically, let's just go ahead and address a couple of things. No, my hair did not grow this long since the last time you saw me. Extensions. My hair doesn't grow. And I found some grays today, so that's fun. I may not have long hair again until the end of this decade or so, and I'm not kidding. Also, I don't know how disgusting this is going to be on camera, but I accidentally burned myself using the oven last week and totally forgot to cover it with a Band-Aid before I started filming. So we're just going to roll with it. So I hope you understand. So it looks like Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star may be making their return to YouTube. As of the time I'm recording this video, as far as I know, they have not yet. But Jeffree Star has made an announcement that he and Shane will be doing, I think, some sort of like series on finding their cosmetics in Nordstrom Rack, I believe it is. And both of these men have been pretty much offline for like the past year or so. We've seen them here and there, but you know, in terms of just their usual YouTube activity, they've been gone due to, if you didn't know, their cancellation around this time or a little bit earlier last year in what was called Dramageddon 3. Depending on who you ask. And I think it's obvious to anyone who consumes regular, or I don't want to say regular YouTube content, but the kind of content that you and I consume, at least what we talk about in kind of the drama and commentary and tea side of YouTube. It's no surprise that these two men as a pair are toxic as hell to the YouTube community. I mean, individually they are, but just together, game over. Game over, dude. In fact, I believe that this friendship not only incited kind of this drama and cancel culture that's been happening on YouTube the past few years, but I believe that it has continually perpetuated it every year since this friendship started in 2018. And that is an opinion of mine. That is something that I would just like to look a little bit deeper into. But first, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Adam and Eve. Now, Adam and Eve has given me a code HELLO, for you to get 50% off one item site-wide. Some exclusions apply, but you do get free shipping across the US and Canada. And in case you are wondering, Adam and Eve offers 24/7 customer support. They have a 90-day no-hassle return policy. 20% of their profit goes to fight the spread of HIV worldwide. And 2021 is Adam and Eve's 50th anniversary, so happy anniversary, Adam and Eve. If you haven't shopped at Adam and Eve yet, let me just vaguely walk you through how I did for the first time, in case you might want to as well. You may have heard in a recent-ish BAP, I mentioned that I was hearing about this product that was just like selling out everywhere, that people were trying to buy stock in because it's like so amazing. And because this person I love was working with Adam and Eve, I thought I'd check out Adam and Eve's website to see if they hold this product, and lo and behold, they did. This item is on the pricier side in terms of just kind of like what might be just a novelty product. Because of my curiosity, because of all the amazing things that I'd heard, I thought, well, there's one product that I'm curious about and I can get 50% off of it. So I did decide I would highly recommend thinking of an item that you really want to invest in and seeing if you can use the code on that item. So if you can figure out which item I'm talking about, comment that below. And if you're right, I'll let you know. But yes, 50% off is amazing, especially if you're looking to invest in a high quality product that might be at a little bit of a higher price. But one of the reasons I feel really good about not just working with Adam and Eve and promoting Adam and Eve, but also purchasing from Adam and Eve is because I see them as a brand with a lot of integrity. All that information I told you about 24-hour customer service and return policy and fighting the spread of HIV, as well as how I decided to shop, they didn't ask me to share any of that with you. And a company that doesn't ask for much, I don't know, that's good juju to me. 50% off, code HELLO. Thanks, Adam and Eve. And just so you know, I am going to be touching on the various events that happened between quote-unquote Dramageddon 1 and Dramageddon 3 to support this argument that I have about this friendship, but it's not going to be really like a deep dive into any of these dramas. So I do want to shout out the creators that did cover these things in videos that kind of helped me organize my thoughts around this. So this video concept really kind of came to me when I was watching a recent video by Nick DiRamio where he really kind of goes into the most recent series that Shane Dawson did with Jeffree Star around the conspiracy palette, all of that. Nick really broke everything down. And that's where I was like, oh my God, watching this is so different now in hindsight with different perspective that we've gained since this series was released. So shout out to Nick D. Everybody loves Nick. If you don't know who Nick is, you're missing out, but also you're welcome. But as well, I wanted to thank a couple of other creators for recapping these 3 Dramageddons, and those that I watched were Smoky Glow. So Hannah actually covered Dramageddon 1 not too long ago, actually a couple of months ago. Another channel I have to shout out because I did review their video is Awesomeness TV. We know how much I love Awesomeness TV. But they covered Dramageddon 2 in a short video. And then there's another small creator by the name of This Is For Eileen. Thank you to those beautiful people for covering those and just kind of giving us the narratives behind these topics that we're going to be discussing. So check those out if you want more context than what I can give you in this video. And this may go into my History of Scandals and Controversies playlist. I'm not sure yet, but if I haven't made it clear, this video won't necessarily be done in the same style. So looking back at Dramageddon 1, which occurred, I believe, around the summer of 2018. Right around this time, or right kind of before this time, is when I learned who Jeffree Star was. I really didn't know anything about him. I'd heard of Shane Dawson before, as I've been a consumer of YouTube for the past 13, 14 years, but I'd never watched Shane's videos. So I was really, and I think I stumbled upon one of Shane's either docuseries things or his conspiracy videos, because it was about the time that he was switching up his content. But either way, at that time, I was like, oh, this stuff is interesting to me. Didn't know anything about the style of his content before. I just knew that it was never anything that piqued my interest. Most likely because his audience was very young while I was watching YouTube as an established adult. So Shane created this series called The Secret World of Jeffree Star. He had done a series on TanaCon. He had done a series on Trisha Paytas. He had done a series on Jake Paul and also on Eugenia Cooney. Not all before this, but just around this time or during this kind of period of Shane's career. And in this series, we see a very, very humanized and soft side of Jeffree Star that almost all of us could be compassionate toward and actually listen to and see as a person who has real emotions, who has been wronged and mistreated in many ways.
I'm a damaged person, 100%. You never not admit that. So it's easy to, clap back and say little things and little jabs, but, as time goes on, I don't feel the need to prove as much, but it's hard, and it's I'm just one person that's had a crazy fucked up past, and I'm just trying to be a better me, you know, and just start the next chapter of my life. So I'm scared to ever talk about this stuff, because I don't want people to use it against me, and that's exactly what they're
Why would anybody, no, why would anybody use something like this? This is like, see, this is what I'm talking about. This
But
is
people use everything against me that's negative. Like anything that's like real, I'm like scared of showing anything because I don't want to be judged for it. That's why I've never talked about my dad. I don't want people to make fun of me. Oh, well, I've had people tell me, oh, your dad never loved you and he died, so that's why you're you like dudes. That's why you wear makeup, because you never had a dad. Like, I've been told that my entire life, and it's so far from the truth. I don't want my pain to be made fun of, so I keep it here and where it's safe.
And that's honestly probably another reason why you're so like, you speak out so fast about things. I think if anything, seeing that is like, not just like relatable to a lot of people, but even more inspirational. The fact that you went from fucking a sad child cutting themselves to...
Keep in mind, I knew nothing about Jeffree Star or his past controversies. I think having that in context, I would not have watched this with the same eyes. But I do remember Shane very much covering the situation between Jeffree and Kat Von D, the tussle they had over Jeffree allegedly not paying an artist that Kat recommended to Jeffree, and then Jeffree clarified that that person had been paid. And now looking back, I'm realizing that there may be some shady business going on there, that might have been handled later as kind of a damage control type of thing before this series or before. Doesn't matter. Jeffree Star and Kat Von D are both trash, and that's not what this video is about. This video is about Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson. So back on track. The point is that they were not shy about covering drama that happened within the beauty community, specifically around Jeffree Star. And without naming names, Jeffree did allude to some of these friends that he had in the beauty community that kind of took advantage of him, despite all that he did for them, despite all of the resources and contacts he offered to them. And Shane kind of overlaid some photos that tipped off who they were talking about. And so depending on how much you were privy to what was going on in the beauty community on YouTube at that time, you may have already guessed or wondered that there may be some sort of tension between Jeffree and some former friends of his, being Gabriel Zimora, Laura Lee, Manny MUA, and Nikita Dragun.
If you already don't like me, you're gonna get the portrayed version of I go through friends quickly.
Right.
And I don't think people get to see what really happens behind the scenes, so I always look like the loudmouth and the bad guy. Because I speak up and I clap back and I say things. It's 2018 and all you negative motherfuckers that were in my life last year, you're gone. See ya!
I feel like, I've seen a lot of the drama videos about you, like, oh, Jeffree said this about this person, did this about this person, oh, his friend, his ex-friend, whatever.
I always felt alone every single second of the day, and I'm just so blessed to have friends like
you. Only want to be there for the good times? Can't relate. So, bye.
And he's hiding it behind this queen persona. Yeah. It's almost like when I see the petty tweets or the petty Instagrams or whatever the fuck, I'm always just like, oh, this is pain.
Just remember that no one is alone out there. You may feel like it. I've had that feeling for a lot of my life, but there are other people out there like you.
It's 2018 and all you negative motherfuckers that were in my life last year, you're gone. See ya! Half the people still think I'm the bad guy when I only loved and cared about all these people and boosted them up and gave them all my connections, and I'm still the fucking bad guy.
So, shortly after the series wrapped and was released, the four of these friends were, I think, out on some sort of brand trip, and they posted a picture holding up their middle fingers, and there was a caption. This was specifically on Gabriel's Twitter account, with the caption something like, "Bitch is just bitter because without him we're doing better." I think that was the quote. And after this, all hell broke loose. And it really started with the narrative, I think. It really started with the narrative that these people were being bullies towards Jeffree Star, who had just gone through this redemption moment during the Shane series. So I think a lot of people were feeling sympathetic towards Jeffree. And because the internet does what it'll do, it went through and dug up all kinds of problematic behavior from these people's pasts. We saw what Hannah described as kind of like one of the newer, kind of a revolutionary style of like apology video or apology style video from Gabriel Zimora, whereas the YouTube community, according to her, had really only seen notes app apologies or apologies that were like heavily scripted, possibly even PR team approved. But Gabriel kind of laid out all of the facts. He offered an apology to Jeffree Star and really just kind of talked through this and processed this just on camera, uncut, for something like 45 minutes. Videos would also come from Manny MUA and Laura Lee. And if I'm not mistaken, they both made 2 separate videos because the first ones were just not well received. And if you don't know about Laura Lee's first apology video around this situation, oh, are you in the right place? Have you watched a YouTube video before? I'm just curious. So, of course, Laura Lee became super canceled. I think more because of the lack of authenticity that we saw in her apology video, where she seemed hysterical, which I have said before that I think a bit of emotion shows sincerity in an apology, but to be hysterical in an apology makes everything about you. And girl, Laura, you made that video about you. And of course, it was branded all kinds of things like fake apology, crocodile tears, and just a joke in so many different ways. So yeah, out of these 4, Laura was the one who was, I would say, the most canceled. Manny was kind of painted out to be sort of like this social climber, or like exposed for being kind of a social climber. People were making a lot of edits of collabs between Manny and Jeffree, where Manny is just kind of like repeating and parroting everything Jeffree says.
Are you living?
I'm living.
It was way more challenging than I thought it was.
Way harder than I thought it was gonna be.
We're just gonna go barefaced in.
Barefaced, yeah.
Okay, listen.
Listen.
I definitely feel a little moisturizing.
I do too. I feel like a little bit more moisturized.
A little bit different
Yeah,
than
different.
normal. Paraphrase. It's gonna stimulate you. You might come, and there's a lot of magnet. Just for reference.
Just for reference.
There's a lot of shit here.
A lot. You didn't know what to expect.
Oh, yeah.
You just don't know what to expect.
Buying some more shades.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna buy some more too.
It appears sculpted and sexy.
Mine are sculpted and sexy.
So we might have different answers.
We have different answers.
If I'm being honest, the edits are pretty funny, but at this time, it just kind of worked against Manny's favor. And to my knowledge, at that time, I don't think we really heard much from Nikita Dragun. And I don't think she was all that impacted in terms of the negative repercussions that some of the others saw. And at that time, I don't think we heard much from Nikita Dragun at all, at least in regards to this situation. And I don't think that she saw a lot of negative impact from this either. And some say it's because she didn't address anything, and there's sort of this backwards rule on YouTube, or not rule, but just kind of just the way things go, you know? That if you ignore drama, it'll go away. That's just kind of a backwards attitude, I'll say, on YouTube. But I also think that there's just kind of this culture around these quote unquote villainous creators who kind of revel in this like rebellious and mean-spirited persona that they put on. It's like, I think that our expectations of these people, like Jeffree Star, like Nikita Dragun, like some other creators I could name, but 2 examples are enough here. I just don't think that they see the consequences of bad behavior like others do, because we don't expect good behavior from them in the first place. Their success is not predicated on their integrity at all. So Nikita got off scot-free and has continued to be a shit person ever since. So surely that'll come back around and bite her and Jeffree too, I suspect, in some way. But moving on. I think that was really kind of just Jeffree's time to sort of relish in enjoying the downfall of not only these former friends that had kind of ostracized him, but potentially, I'm not saying I think this is what happened, but just potentially eliminating other competitors in his community. So with that comes Dramageddon 2 in 2019. I think around the summer again. It was around whenever Coachella is. So I think that is, I don't know. I'm not a Coachella person. Whenever it's warm out, summer. This Dramageddon 2, is also known as the Bi-Sister Scandal. So if you haven't heard of that, let me explain the history of YouTube drama to you. But in all seriousness, there was a situation between Tati Westbrook and James Charles, seemingly just between Tati Westbrook and James Charles.
There's so much going on with James Charles right now that I do not support, that I do not agree with. Fame, power, and a fat bank account will change almost anyone. And if you don't have people that will tell you to your face that you're doing the wrong things, you will change. And I tried to be that person for you, James. I really tried. I don't think there's any getting through to you, and I don't want to be friends with you. I don't want to be associated with you. And I need to say that very publicly so that this chapter can just be closed.
In which Tati Westbrook posted a video called Bi-Sister that really just kind of, I'm going to say in quotes, quote unquote, exposed James Charles for a lot of problematic behavior and what she referred to as kind of trying to trick straight men into thinking that they were gay.
Oh my God, you tried to trick a straight man into thinking he's gay yet again, and somehow you're the victim. You know, it's really disgusting to manipulate someone's sexuality, especially when they are still, emerging into adulthood and don't quite have everything figured out. You are using your fame, your power, your money to play with people's emotions. You're threatening to ruin them. You're threatening to embarrass them. And you're doing that to have them behave sexually in your favor, even if they're straight. And you know what? That's not okay. That behavior is not okay. Whether you're a woman, a man, gay, straight, bi, whatever sexual orientation you are, that is your personal call, and it is not someone else's to take. It's not someone else's to play with. It's not someone else's to mess with. And how dare you laugh about it and make meme after meme and retweet and this and that and I love straight boys and make it a joke. Because this behavior is not normal, it's not okay. Cracking someone's sexuality is not an escape room.
And just really kind of focused a lot on like vulgar language.
Sucking dick and cock.
And stuff like that. So there were accusations in there specifically pointed at James in regards to certain people, like a waiter, a model, these specific people. So why did this happen? Tati says it wasn't over vitamins, but something James did really was undeniably the catalyst for this to happen. James Charles attended Coachella for a weekend that year. He decided he wanted to stay for another weekend, but wasn't able to procure the tickets for artists. I think artist passes is what they're called, that allow influencers to be around other high-profile people, which in a sense kind of provides a little bit more security because then they're not running the risk of being mobbed by fans or people who recognize them. So James did not have artist passes, only had VIP passes, and on the spot, according to him, signed a deal with Sugar Bear Hair, which is the direct competitor of the hair, nails, and skin, just the beauty vitamin gummy that Tati was getting ready to launch. Sugar Bear Hair would be considered the direct competitor of that brand, Halo Beauty. So in exchange for, I think, a 24-hour IG story from James, Sugar Bear Hair was able to procure James with the artist passes that he would need to get the security that he needed in order to stay another weekend at Coachella. So that felt like a betrayal, it seemed, to Tati Westbrook. And because of some back and forth with Gabriel Zimora, it seemed like that's kind of what prompted Tati to make the Bi-Sister video.
I would have left. A lot of people are like, what was he supposed to do? It's dangerous. It's like, leave, go home. It's a couple days of your life. It'll happen again next year. Bring security next time. Have some loyalty to that fan base who has put all that money into your bank account instead of lying to them. Because you say you don't like the brand. You, I'm sure, hadn't tried the product for more than a week because they offered you that deal on the spot at Coachella, and 9 days later you had the story. So you hadn't even tried it for a full month. Do better research. Melatonin over time, not great for you. Look into the formula before you promote it, which I also thought was really strange because the reason that James always said that he couldn't promote Halo on his channel and really do like, you know, heavy endorsement was because he has a teenage audience and it would just be inappropriate. You sold out me, but you threw away our friendship, but you lied to me, made up a story. You knew this would be embarrassing for me. No, our relationship is not transactional. I have never asked you for anything in return. You should have walked away. You should have held on to your integrity. You're a phony. I know that now. I know that you're easily bought.
And I believe that she was just saying that essentially James's behavior had gotten out of control, that, you know, he really needed to get some things into perspective, and that's what that video was all about. However, James came back after initially making an apology towards Tati. He actually came back, and after losing, I think, a couple million subscribers, he came back with a video in which he provided receipts to really kind of debunk all of the claims that Tati made for the most part.
Despite what Tati said in her video, this whole situation was definitely not a big scheme that was orchestrated beforehand. It really did happen on the spot. The Sugar Bear Hair team texted me the proposal right away. No money was involved, and with no time to negotiate, in a panic, I signed, and that was that on that.
James Charles, he had 9 days after Coachella to talk to me.
On Monday, April 22nd, which was one day after Coachella, I was due to post my stories based on my contract. And up until that moment, I honestly had not thought about the fact that Tati was a Sugar Bear Hair competitor. And in that moment, I thought that as a friend, she deserved a courtesy text to let her know the context of the sponsorship and everything that was going on.
To not even get a phone call, to not even get a text a few days prior, but right after that sponsored post went up, to have a text like, hey mom, love you, I'm stressed. Just so you know, XYZ, I just did this post, but it's no big.
Before posting my stories, I actually did text Tati first out of respect for her, giving her heads up about the sponsorship, but she was immediately upset. I tried my best to kind of explain the entire situation and also give her a direct apology as well, but at this point I had signed the contract and I absolutely had to post it. There was no getting out of it.
Things like Tati saying that James had never promoted Halo Beauty, her brand of gummies that she was getting ready to launch. And James provided proof that, in fact, he had done it here, 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 and here.
The reason that James always said that he couldn't promote Halo on his channel and really do like, you know, heavy endorsement was because he has a teenage audience and it would just be inappropriate.
Now, this time was just confusing to me, mostly because this conversation never actually happened. If you guys know my channel, you would know that I don't really do dedicated product reviews ever, which is what Tati is known for. But even though that is the case, I've still multiple times talked about her products on all my social media networks. I have to word okay, I forgot to say too. Hello. I'm going to a really important event later on tonight. My best friend...
we are going to a very important event.
Yes, this is true. And this is a very important launch to me because it is my best friend Tati. She's launching something new on Halo Beauty. Super proud of her. By the time this video is out, it'll already be up, so go check it out. Promo for Tati. Love you the most.
Who doesn't need a little beauty boost every now and then? Two of the following statements are real claims made by the original Halo Beauty Booster supplement.
Oh!
Which are the real ones?
Can I just say I love you guys for putting a Halo question in there.
I
love you for that.
I just received my package from Halo Beauty. This is Tati's brand new brand. I did not tell Tati that I was buying these, but I did pay for these myself because I just wanted to support her, and I'm so happy. I know she's getting a lot of backlash on this, which is making me so mad because I know she's worked so hard on these for the past several years now. Congratulations, Tati. I love you literally so much, and I'm very, very proud of you and all your hard work.
He provided screenshots of text messages between himself and the other guys that they were talking about in this video. He really just kind of absolved himself from everything he was accused of at that time. It should be noted that at the time that Tati put out the Bye Sister video, for one, I noticed when watching it back that you can see the Jeffree Star cosmetics in the background. That's important. And Jeffree Star did tweet about Jeffree Star, about James Charles at this time, saying essentially there's a reason that Nathan has banned Jeffree. There's a reason Nathan has banned James Charles from our home and referred to James as a danger to society. So although James Charles has definitely engaged in very reprehensible behavior that I certainly can't stand behind, this situation did kind of work itself out in a way that was, I think most people agree, fair, and that Tati's video was very much unfair. And then whatever Jeffree, and then of course the things that Jeffree says, Jeffree will say. I think this was around the time that Jeffree Star kind of like started this, like, do I call it like the voice memo tour? Because in so many different videos, I heard so many different creators referring to this voice memo that Jeffree Star had in his phone that he was kind of holding over James Charles's head. It was a voice memo suspected to be, or allegedly, a voice memo from somebody who was a victim of James Charles in some way or another. And it seemed like Jeffree was really just going around and teasing this voice memo in a lot of videos and podcasts.
He then provided me with receipts of a voice memo from a YouTuber who was allegedly sexually molested by James Charles. And it's credible. It's a YouTuber. It's credible. It is not my place to out this YouTuber's name at all.
The night before I did film, Jeffree sent me what he claimed was an audio file from an alleged victim and told me to listen to the pain in their voice. The audio was clearly a small portion of a larger conversation. It wasn't enough for me to contact the authorities. It was enough to scare me.
Is James Charles a danger to society? Is he a predator?
Keem. If you want, we can pause and I can go in another room and play Banks what I have on my phone, and he can determine if he would have sent the same tweet. At the end of the day, I'm not going to out a victim of James Charles.
Honestly, I think to terrorize James. So, summer of 2020 comes around. I believe that the huge cancellation of Shane Dawson really started because Jenna Marbles did this thing where she kind of canceled herself by coming on camera and truly taking accountability for her past problematic behavior, not making excuses for it, and then just kind of peacing out. And I think some other creators were kind of like inspired, but failed to do, the exact same thing. And I think maybe even Shane said that video inspired him, but he went on his own channel and talked for a while about how he has had some very problematic behavior in his past that he is so sorry for that he should lose his career over. And I don't know if you manifested that, Shane, or if that was just foreshadowing or what, but
I saw Jenna Marbles' video, and it really inspired me and felt like a sign from the universe that I want to do this. So this video is coming from a place of just wanting to own up to my shit, wanting to own up to everything I've done on the internet that has hurt people, that has added to a problem, that has not been handled well. I should have been punished for things. It seems like something that is irredeemable, or I don't know the right word, but it's something that I shouldn't even be able to get out of. I should lose everything for that.
Surprise, it worked. I think that it was a combination of this apology video as well as the Smith family coming out and tweeting about how they had never received an apology from Shane Dawson for some really disgusting behavior, a really nasty act that he mimicked in front of a poster of an 11-year-old Willow Smith years ago in a video. I think for me, that was the first time that I really saw Shane Dawson's not just problematic behavior, but just outright disgusting behavior. Of course, I hadn't really looked into all of the things that were starting to come up for a little while. I was a little bit behind the times on that. So I made 2 videos. I made one video that was way too soft on Shane Dawson before I saw all of that stuff, before I saw D'Angelo Wallace's video specifically. And then I made another video where I really fully disavowed Shane Dawson as a creator, one that I could not see myself supporting again. So I don't know if Shane Dawson could have come back from that situation just as it stood. There's no telling because too many things have happened between, so we can't say what is to account for what. But at around that time, Tati put out a video. I think it had been about a year since the Bye Sister video. She put out a video called Breaking My Silence. And in this video, she really kind of went into detail about really everything that was going on around the Bye Sister scandal. And she laid it all out and exposed Shane and Jeffree for the roles that they played in that scandal, in making that video come to light.
I've lost over a year of my life terrified of social media, and terrified of speaking up against the people that used, coerced, and manipulated me into uploading my video in May of last year. Back in December 2019, after Shane and Jeffree's series ended, James Charles came to my LA home, and we compared DMs, texts, and stories about what had happened behind the scenes. One thing that he did that did concern me a lot was how he would frequently comment about how much dirt he held on other brand owners and members of our YouTube community. I believe that he actually held blackmail material on many people and was capable of destroying the entire community. Back in 2019, Jeffree started talking a lot more crap about James Charles than usual. It seemed that doing so had become his biggest obsession. Over the next few weeks, Jeffree began talking to me about how Shane Dawson was a big fan of mine and wanted to meet me, and how I should be involved in their docuseries. He said that James Charles was a monster with many victims. Over the course of the next few weeks, he and Jeffree fed me so much information that I felt sick. By the time the drama around James Charles's promotion of Sugar Bear Hair reached its peak, I was beyond gaslit. Jeffree and Shane were both bitterly jealous of James Charles's success. Jeffree resented that so much of his business was centered around his biggest rival, and Shane did not like that James Charles wanted to make a documentary. Neither of them were happy with standing in his shadow on YouTube anymore. And it's also my opinion that Jeffree and Shane needed James marginalized and out of the way for their November launch of the Conspiracy Palette along with Shane's merch. I've also recently been informed that Jeffree is allegedly a co-owner of Morphe. I had also been told that James Charles was about to develop an entire cosmetics line with the owners of Morphe. It is now my opinion that James Charles was not their only intended target.
In this video, she told us a number of things, but a few details being that at the time that she was to release the Bi-Sister scandal or the Bi-Sister video, she was highly concerned because James was in a hotel on the 55th floor, and she was concerned that he might act on an impulse that he would not be able to take back in terms of hurting himself.
I texted Shane sharing my concerns for James Charles, that he was out of the country on a high floor of a hotel and I was afraid for him hurting himself. Shane texted me back and said that I should not be nervous about the 50th floor, that James Charles was a narcissist and that he would never do that. Shane never reached out to check on me, and he never shared the trailer with me, and I asked him to not include the drama in the series.
We heard that Shane Dawson apparently said that James Charles deserved a slice of humble pie the size of the Chrysler building, I believe he said.
So the part of the Twitter note that I regret more than anything in my life was the part where I said that James deserved a slice of humble pie the size of the Empire State Building.
And this is also, some of these details were also brought forward by some other people. So a couple of other people that came forward included Cam Lester, who is an ex-employee of James, now I'm doing that, an ex-employee of Jeffree Star's. And he talked about just how much Jeffree was obsessed with James Charles and
he just like was so blunt and out of nowhere asked me, do you like James? And if you guys know me, James helped me with my career when I first got into the beauty space and tell my HIV story. Like, he's always been very supportive of me. And I was like, I don't have a problem with him. Do I agree with everything he does? No. But I don't have a personal problem with him, and he's done so much for me, so why would I go against him? And he was like, well, you don't fucking owe him forever. And I just was like taken back when he said that, because I was like, it all happened so fast. He was like, you don't fucking owe him forever. And I just remembered that, and I was like, what? OMG.
Just kind of talking crap about him and not wanting to have anything to do with anybody who has anything to do with James, etc. But to circle back to breaking my silence, Tati really talks about how she essentially felt manipulated and pressured into making that video, specifically manipulated by Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson. She also told us that Shane Dawson offered to help with the video in terms of, I think, like preparing the title and thumbnail or something like that.
Shane Dawson didn't just know about my Bi-Sister video. He offered to help edit it. He even offered to design the thumbnail and help title it. Keep in mind that up until this point, I didn't even know I was making a video. So how is it that so many editorial outlets knew that something was coming before I had even made a decision to film?
But he did offer, according to Tati, to play a role in creating this video that was to be, this hit piece that was to be posted. And I'm not sure if it was in her video or in Cam's video or where, but we heard about Shane Dawson being on the phone, screaming at or about James Charles or something like that. I just remember when I heard that, I'm like, that's weird. That doesn't sound at all like Shane Dawson, or at least the Shane Dawson that we've seen on YouTube. You know, the ever loving, caring empath, the person who's so sensitive that just feels for everyone, feels so much for the world.
I spoke about my faith and told him how deeply I feel for others. He shared with me that he was an empath and that he could feel all of my pain.
Supposedly screaming at or about James Charles? Like, it was hard to believe because it was such a departure from what I had seen of Shane. But trust me, I don't believe Shane to be like a nice person at all these days. Just to be clear.
Try. It's a stab.
Well, but who's asking that?
Shopify.
Fix it!
Cool. Can we please do
I'm
that
not
right now?
booting these kids. There's a kid in a hospital bed right now who has a fucking laptop.
Oh, never mind.
Fix it.
Yeah.
I'm not taking anything out of the movie to please a bunch of out-of-work actors in Pittsburgh who should be lucky to get an audition for a feature film. No director has ever taken anything out of a movie to get somebody to audition. I'm angry that we're finding out about this 2 days before we start filming the movie. I don't know. I'm gonna go.
Shane, stop it. You can't go. We have too much to do.
I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do this in my
But around that time, I think there was kind of this rumor that I heard that's just kind of been like rumbling around in my head. And actually, I did make a podcast where I talked about this. But there was a rumor that said that perhaps Jeffree Star was trying to eliminate a competitor in James Charles. And I think that's really important to keep in mind for what we're about to talk about. So we are going to go back in time a little bit. So now, it was between Dramageddon 2, or the Bi-Sister Scandal, and Dramageddon 3, or Shane's self-cancellation plus breaking my silence. Between these two periods is when Shane Dawson put out his second series about Jeffree Star, or with Jeffree Star, The Beautiful World of Jeffree Star, like I said, documenting them creating this makeup palette. And going back in 2021 and watching some of those clips now, oh my God, that was definitely something that really cemented in my mind that Shane Dawson has been manipulating us all along with this empathic personality or persona that he was putting on. Oh. So this idea that perhaps Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson, well, I was saying just Jeffree Star before, but Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star, the idea that perhaps they were the driving force or a driving force behind creating the Bi-Sister Scandal as a means of eliminating one of their competitors. Keep in mind that this is like alleged on top of alleged. This is just kind of more or less loosely what I believe what was going on. When you go back to this series, some pieces are a lot more telling than before we knew this information. So if you aren't aware, as Shane was kind of teasing and promoting this series, and I think as they were creating it, Shane asked his audience, do you want to see the business side of creating a makeup palette, or do you want to see more about like the drama side of the beauty community? And overwhelmingly, his audience said they wanted to see more of an insider look at the drama in the beauty community. However, after I think 6 or so episodes, we saw nothing but the business side. And in fact, it got to the point where Shane and Jeffree were being criticized for using this opportunity as just a cash grab, that there was no interest in terms of Shane Dawson's interest. There was no real interest in makeup or even how that community or that market works. But Shane Dawson had this huge brand, this huge following, and there was potential for a lot of money to be made. And it's been debated whether or not Shane was aware of his influence and his impact and how much money he could bring in, because he has said to Jake Paul that like he's not done a good job of marketing himself. He doesn't have quote unquote, or didn't have quote unquote fuck you money. And then in this series, Jeffree Star is just like looking into things like, oh, you're selling your merch on, I think it was Amazon, and do you realize that you should be receiving this much of the profit? Like there's this I don't know if it's a facade, but there was definitely this air about Shane Dawson that's like, I'm not good with business. I'm not good at money. I don't have money. I'm so poor and relatable, you know, that whole thing. So I do believe that that is probably true to an extent further than what Jeffree Star knows about. I was going to say his own potential pull and business acumen, more or less. I definitely believe that Jeffree had and has more of that. And I think he put a bug in Shane Dawson's ear. I think, and I mean, I was going to say, well, I think, or like, this is my opinion or is my speculation, but we saw it. I mean, that's what we saw in the series, was really 6 episodes of Jeffree expressing to Shane how much money he could make if he monetized his name through a makeup palette. And that they did. And I think due to a lot of the criticism about this being a cash grab on the part of these two men, I think that's when we started to see Shane Dawson really kind of, I want to say allegedly pretending to be really interested in makeup. That's when we started to see little video clips here and there, like in the series, of Shane Dawson playing with makeup, working on it, doing makeup on Ryland and Andrew. And in fact, I think it might have been after the launch of the palette, but I think it was still kind of in defense of this argument. Shane created another channel, I think maybe it was his 3rd channel, called Shane Glosson. And this was meant to be a makeup specific channel. And the last time I checked on it, earlier today, it had 3 million subscribers and something like 5 videos. In fact, I want to pull up the video titles because that's even more interesting. So what did I say? 5-ish videos? Yeah. He had one 30-second video just called Test. I think it was just a video to establish a channel. And then after that, we have The End of the Beauty World, which has a thumbnail with him and Jeffree Star. I don't remember what that was about. Another video called Conspiracy Theories, Warning Signs with Shane Dawson. Another one called Confronting My Strange Addiction. I remember what that was about. I was going to say, was that one about slime? No, that was about Shane's recent addiction with blinging items. If you've watched any Trisha Paytas, you've probably seen many of their items in their home, like Starbucks cups and stuff like that, covered in jewels. And basically, Shane developed an addiction to this and ended up just like promoting this lady's business through that video. It was so boring. Another video called Addressing My Weight Gain. I think that was one where he showcased himself working with a trainer. And then another video called Craziest Conspiracy Theories. So please tell me, where is the makeup content, Shane? So it just kind of seemed like Shane was like falling over himself to prove that he wasn't these things that the critics were claiming that he was. And in fact, people were talking about how he asked the audience what they wanted and he did not deliver what they wanted, which was an insider look at the beauty community and specifically the drama that goes on in there. This is a super quick reminder to like this video and subscribe to my channel if that's something you want to do. If that's not something you want to do, just don't. I'll shut up and start talking now. And so that's when we saw, I think it was a 7th episode in that series that focused a little bit more on the drama in the beauty community. At the time I saw it, whatever, no big deal, shows a little bit of drama. Didn't think much of it, forgot which parts he showed. But again, it was in looking back at this series through Nick DiRamio's channel that I saw clips and realized that the only drama that I was seeing in these clips was the bi-sister scandal. That's funny enough in and of itself, but the way that the docuseries really kind of showcases Shane and Ryland watching the bi-sister video in quote unquote in real time.
I'm just like so nervous, like 4th hand.
I know. Oh my god.
43 minutes.
I have a weird feeling. This is gonna be like Dramageddon part 2. What is he gonna do? What is gonna happen? What's gonna happen?
So if you're gonna go on the internet and cry and heavily imply that there's a horrible human being and everybody can get what it is, girls, sit on the internet and talk about it then.
Hey you guys, welcome to today's video. Obviously from
Holy shit.
My heart is racing.
I know. The fucking camera's shaking, sorry.
Look at her. She's like fucking, looks like a fucking goddess. She got ready. This is bad news.
we were talking in detail about things you wanted to do to the waiter. And when I said, James, he's straight, your response was, doesn't matter, I'm a celebrity. So freaking gross. And you said that in front of my family. In front of my childhood friends. I had to call everyone.
What the fuck is going on? Wait, what are you doing? Are you like...
Somebody screenshotted his social blade. Oh my god. Oh my god. And everybody's saying they're unsubscribing. This is crazy. I'm like freaking out.
Well, I mean, you have empathy for people who go through these like cancel moments. What is this?
I'm so disappointed.
Why is he just staring?
What do I have to say?
What are you thinking?
I hate this. I feel like everything has gone way too far.
The air of shock and awe that Shane and Rylan put on is just, looking back, I'm just like, there's no way that this was anything other than fake.
Shane said that James Charles was a monster and that James Charles was hurting minors.
If Shane covers a drama, he'll do it tastefully.
The internet is such like a, oh, let's jump on this shit, let's milk this shit, you know, all the drama channels. And I totally get it, like I understand 100%, but like we know this person. We lifted this person up, you know? People have been buying his palette. All these people have been going to his meet and greets. Like everybody lifted this person up and it's so quickly, like I've never seen before, they fucking dropped him down. It was so immediate and such a flip that like it's scary and also sad. This needs to be a lesson for the whole internet and for beauty communities and everything. No matter how angry you are, how justified you are, it's not worth it.
Shane said he was planning to interview victims for the docuseries. He told me that something needed to be done to stop him from hurting more people.
Oh my God, this is so different looking back on it now. Holy shit. Because if we jump forward to 2020, Shane denied all of the claims that Tati made against him with regards to the Bi-Sister scandal. However, he did confirm that he knew that the Bi-Sister video was coming. So where is this shock and awe? And if that's fake, how am I supposed to believe anything else that Shane Dawson said about it? I mean, we know the answer to that. I'm not supposed to believe anything that he said. But just watching those clips and with this perspective was just so illuminating. And then it made me think of other parts of the series. And if I'm not mistaken, I will double check this. I believe that there was a conflict where Jeffree Star was talking to the people over at Morphe about a release date for the conspiracy palette. And they wanted a certain date. I think maybe it was like around Halloween or something like that of, I guess it would have been 2019. And Morphe gave a lot of pushback because the date that Jeffree and Shane wanted as their launch date conflicted with the launch date of Jeffree, it keeps happening, of James Charles's upcoming holiday palette.
Because I'm new to this world, but I'm also curious, how does it work as far as like other things coming out around the same time? Is that something that's a concern? Like, is there other people, other YouTubers putting out stuff? Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad.
Well, I think this is what we're just trying to figure out. We would definitely want to make sure that you have a full moment, you know, being showcased in the stores and the light boxes, you know, homepage takeover, social takeover. And I think that, you know, I think the challenge is to be that there will likely be an anniversary of the James Charles house that we launched last November, so that was the reason, frankly, I asked. We haven't clarified the exact timing.
Which just, again, in perspective, looking back at that, whew, seriously, was Jeffree Star trying to eliminate his number one competitor? And I hate to get this dark about it, but was he trying to get this person canceled, or was he trying to get rid of this person altogether? And the only reason I say that, and I'm trying to be very vague because I didn't put any trigger warnings on this. I'll probably pop them up on the screen. But the reason I wonder about that is just because Tati says that she expressed this concern over James being on the 55th floor when this video came out.
I'm helpful to my best friends, especially the ones that were with me in Australia, that kept me from making a really, really dangerous, irreversible choice that I would not have been able to take back. Because if it weren't for them, I would not be alive today, and they know who they are.
But the more I look with a scrutinizing eye at Jeffree Star and his business acumen, I think that he takes a very Machiavellian approach to business. And that was kind of already alluded to by the disingenuous nature of Shane Dawson being this like up and coming beauty guru or somebody who is now obsessed with makeup. Like, we can see that that is demonstrably untrue. One of my patrons even told me that there was like a cleaning video that Shane posted, or maybe it was Ryland, but one in which they like cleaned out that makeup room, I guess it was. And there was just like all this makeup that they were donating. And we haven't seen anything, you know, of that nature from Shane since, any makeup content. So already we're looking at Jeffree Star using the first YouTube series that Shane Dawson did on him, The Secret World of Jeffree Star, as sort of an opportunity for redemption, which worked. We also saw Jeffree Star using Shane Dawson's name, potentially just as a cash grab with no passion behind it. That worked in that it sold out. So it just makes me wonder, you know, where does Jeffree draw the line in terms of how far he'll go to be successful in business? And kind of looking back on Dramageddon 1, was he trying to eliminate those 4 people as competitors? I kind of alluded to this already, but was he eliminating them as competitors in the beauty space on YouTube? These are questions I do not have answers to, but they're interesting to chew on. And I think what this all has to do in terms of the Shane Dawson cancellation or Dramageddon of 2020 is that on top of this weird fake seeming like self-cancellation apology video, plus the tweets from the Smith family, plus all of the things from Shane's past that were kind of dug back up and really showcased to the world, I think it just did not help Shane's case at all that this expose from Tati really kind of exposed Shane Dawson's kind of mean boy nature. Something that we didn't think as a collective audience, we didn't think he had, but then looking back at certain bits and pieces here and there, it's there.
So how is it that so many editorial outlets knew that something was coming before I had...
Because you messaged drama channels! Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
The audio was clearly a small portion of
Oh my
the
god.
conversation.
Well, then why would you make a video on the matter claiming these allegations?
Because she is a fucking... I can't. I don't want to say mean things about people. This is insane. This person literally...
As a victim of abuse myself...
Oh my god.
Terrified.
You are so manipulative.
To think of facing public...
You're fake crying. You are fake crying. That is not real. Oh my god.
And this is evidenced. I think I showed a clip in a video where he was like making jokes about Tana Mojo with the little puppet doll. I've seen clips where he's mocking Eugenia Cooney by filming, I think it was like a Halloween decorations, like a skeleton in a store, and then shortly thereafter doing a redemption series on Eugenia. And since then, we've also found out that allegedly Shane Dawson was the person who told Gabby Hanna a rumor about the sexual health of Trisha Paytas that was untrue. So it was all there in front of us. Damn, man, public favor is a strong drug. I bought this sensitive boy, nice guy persona just as much as the next person. I mean, I hate cliches, but I guess the bigger they are, the harder they fall. So, as it stands, just about no one wants these two men, or either of these two men, to return to YouTube. But certainly not as a pair, not together. Like, what are you thinking, Shane? Shane Dawson spent so much time redeeming problematic people in these series. I mentioned Tana Mojo, Jake Paul, Eugenia Cooney, Trisha Paytas, Jeffree Star, and it's come back to bite him very clearly, very obviously. It's given more power and exposure and influence to not just somebody, and right now I'm speaking specifically about Jeffree Star, not just somebody who's problematic, but somebody who's corrupt as fuck. You made yourself the subject of one of these docuseries, and then that got you in trouble because it was exposed that this likely was a cash grab, this really big project you were working on, exploiting your young audience, your young faithful audience. And it's been thing after thing after thing after thing. And look, Shane Dawson does well enough on his own, canceling himself, just behaving on his own in ways that are irredeemable, to where the internet does not want him to come back. But you add Jeffree Star in the mix, and that just amps everything up to 10. No, they were already at 10. That just moves the bar that much more. So while I believe Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star both to be just very shitty people that I don't really care to see back on the YouTube platform. In a sense, I feel like trying to get this message across to the Jeffree Stars of the world is just pointless. Kind of like I said earlier in kind of comparing him and Nikita Dragun. Like I said, when you come onto the scene and you create this villainous persona, our expectations of you are just not that high. You get away with shitty behavior. How do you teach a lesson in there at all? I do believe that this time has been hard on Shane Dawson. Doesn't forgive anything that he's done, does not invite him back to the platform, but it just makes me wonder, like, what are you doing? Like, you've already dug your own grave, and you're just doing it more and more and more the more you work with Jeffree Star. Sometimes I wonder if perhaps Shane Dawson fears for his life the way a bunch of other people have told us that they have feared. But Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star, with this series, this Finding Our Palette in Nordstrom Rack series, like, just don't. We don't want it. Even if I've tried to put myself in the mindset of when I was enjoying their content, I can't imagine this concept even being interesting in the slightest. Just don't do it. Just don't. So that's that on that. Thank you for hearing me out. Thank you to Adam and Eve for sponsoring this video and providing a promo code to my audience. Promo code HELLO for 50% off one item. Some exclusions apply. Free shipping in the US and Canada. Like I said, good juju with that company. I would highly recommend checking them out and using my promo code like I did when I decided to support another creator that I love. Just to wrap this up nice and neat, please be sure to check me out for my podcast that is done in a live stream format on YouTube, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find me on social media, primarily Instagram at helloleesh, and you can join my little corner of the internet to get more in depth in these conversations with me, as well as the people who watch my videos at patreon.com/helloleesh. It's the best little community online, hands down, also hand to God. How that works, I don't know, but it serves to express my sincerity. So thank you to my patrons and to you, the one person who's watching who's not me. Thank you. I love you, dude. And I'll see you probably on Tuesday. All right. Thanks. Bye. I firmly believe that people are good.
Yeah.
And that is something that people try to argue with me on or try to convince me is not the case. And that is something where I am unrelenting. I hate it so much when commentators and people in general are like, well, this person's a bad person.
Right.
And I hate that so much because then I'm like, where do you draw the line? Are you a good person? So are you better than them? Like, that throws me into a tizzy and I just like short circuit. So from a philosophical standpoint, I do approach these things with everybody's good, but at the same time, I can be very judgmental. I have very strong opinions. I don't waffle about, how I feel about topics and people's behaviors. So I do try to approach things through the lens of, okay, what do I think is going on for them? Mm-hmm. And, of course that for me at least, it takes a lot of time, like educating myself and learning about mental health, which I think is something that you also find passion and interest in. Is just like, what is it about like human behavior? Why is this person different than me? And that is a huge fascination for me, is just like why we operate the way we do. And I think one thing that really kind of changed my outlook for the better, but it really opened up a lot for me, was the first time I heard somebody say, we're all the sum of our life experiences. And that kind of changed my perspective to say, okay, maybe you wouldn't do what this person is doing, but if you lived their life, you would. If you had their experiences, you would. And so with that perspective, that kind of helps me to, it sparks a curiosity. What does this person experience and what have they experienced that has made them behave in the way that they do that is different than what I would do? Because there's a reason in there. And so from that perspective, that's kind of how I'm able to kind of balance out that whole, like, I'm no better than that person, I'm just different kind of philosophy.
Right. I love that, because there is a line of inquiry where it's really coming from this place of, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but coming from this place of, I know this to be true because these are my beliefs that everybody is inherently good. So because I'm seeing this action, there has to be some way that I can make that make sense. Right. And like guess at what that is. And I think that that is super powerful. And I totally agree. I feel like regardless of the temperament or belief systems of everyone, I 100% believe that everybody is the hero of their own story. And when you see actors that have really taken on really dark roles, a lot of times talking about their process, the first thing most of them have to do is say, I need to put myself in this space of I'm the hero. I'm doing this for a reason. Like, this is the best outcome, whatever, to justify to themselves why they're doing these atrocious acts. And I feel like having that cognitive empathy, having that ability to trace steps and use your imagination to really figure out how somebody can get to where they are is very different than condoning that. And I feel like people a lot of times don't have that nuance because it's easier to just put things in a bucket instead of really having empathy as to how somebody can arrive at this as a solution. But then also say, but the solution is inherently fucked up and problematic. And I don't need to then label this person as that, but I can also label this action as that. So what's the distinction for you, especially when you're thinking about when you're providing this commentary and sometimes really holding people's hands to the fire? And thinking about, most of these people, like everyone, like all of us, are insecure people who are showing up to the best of their ability. That's another one of my beliefs, is that everybody's fundamentally doing their best and they're the hero of their own story. So that, and then also this, but yes, and I'm also going to be really honest and bold in my assessment of the way that they're showing up.
Sure. I think what bridges those two is criticism, at least in my mind or in my life, is, I can believe that this person is doing what they think is best. I can also think that what they think is best is not the best. And how do I reconcile that? Is that, well, perhaps people need to be taught. And that doesn't mean that, like, I'm not playing God and thinking that, like, I teach people how to be how they need to be. But I do think that we need feedback in order to allow us to grow, allow us to become better versions of ourselves. Because without that, then people are just going to run amok and they're just going to behave in their flawed ways, myself included. I am, I am not this perfect person that I am and that's my tone. I'm being sarcastic. I'm not perfect, but I see, because somebody's going to be like, oh my God, this bitch.
What is funny is I didn't even catch that as, like, I didn't catch what did you say, the tone indicator in that?
Yeah.
Because
I didn't even catch it. So that is funny. Yeah, that's funny that, oh my gosh. Yeah.
I'm starting to get to the point where I say these things and I'm like, Alicia, people don't know what you're actually saying. So like the internet has done this to me. But in a sense, it is that, because if I am going to act as some sort of like the judge and the jury on my own YouTube channel,
right,
then I need to come from a space where, whether people like this or not, where I believe that I've figured it out somewhat, that I am doing okay in my life. Because if my interpersonal relationships were all just like on fire right now, who would I be to be giving anybody any sort of criticism or advice? Of course, like in no way am I perfect. I am still figuring this out. I've said before that this process of being critical and offering advice and criticism holds me accountable. It's a learning process for me as much as I want it to be for anyone else. I didn't get, and part of it has to do with my religious and philosophical outlooks. Part of it has to do with the process of getting and staying sober. Some of it has to do with just my fascination from like an educational standpoint with people. But I didn't come to the place where I am, where I'm comfortable offering criticism without having to intuit feedback and criticism from other people over the years. So I think I think we all need that. So Joe Schmo on the street, all of his decisions are not perfect, but he still can be a perfect person in a sense. And how I reconcile that is that we're all here with a collective responsibility to look out for each other and to course correct for each other. So this is all part of the process.
If you love this episode and the show, be sure to rate and review on iTunes and share it out in the world with a friend, family, frenemy, whatever feels good. You can follow us on Instagram at The Bold Bitch Podcast, and we're waiting for you at theboldbitch.com/mafia. See you next week.